The sun was shining brightly as the bus full of excited students rumbled along the narrow, winding road that led deep into the forest. It was a school trip everyone had been looking forward to for weeks. The destination was the isolated Banto Forest, known for its towering trees and mysterious legends. For most of the students, it was just another adventure, a chance to bond with friends and take a break from school. But for Chris, it was just another opportunity to be invisible. Chris had always been the quiet kid, blending into the background. He rarely spoke, and when he did, few people noticed. At the back of the bus, he sat alone, gazing out the window while the others laughed and shouted with excitement. "Look at the shy one, just staring into space." One of the louder boys, Derek, sneered. Chris ignored the comment. He was used to it. The bus eventually arrived at the forest's edge, and the students poured out, ready for a day of hiking and exploring. The teachers gathered everyone, giving instructions to stay together and not wander too far. But as the group ventured deeper into the forest, the mood began to shift. The trees seemed to close in around them, their tall branches blocking out the sunlight, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The cheerful laughter faded as an unsettling quiet settled over the group. Suddenly, a thick fog rolled in, making it hard to see. The path they had been following vanished in the mist, and panic started to spread. "Where's the teacher?" one of the students shouted. "Over here. Everyone stay together," one of the teachers called out. But in the confusion, some students wandered off, and before they knew it, the group had split into smaller, lost clusters. Chris, who had stayed near the back, found himself with a few others: Derek, Lisa, and 3 other students. As they tried to retrace their steps, an unnatural howl echoed through the forest, freezing them in place. It was a sound none of them had ever heard before, a low, guttural growl, followed by a rustling in the trees. "What was that?" Lisa whispered, her voice trembling. Then they saw it. Emerging from the mist was a dark, hulking creature, its body covered in matted fur, its glowing eyes locked onto the group. The creature's teeth were sharp and jagged, its limbs unnaturally long. It moved with terrifying speed, lunging at one of the students at the front. Before anyone could react, the creature had dragged him into the trees. His screams silenced by the rustling leaves, panic erupted. Derek took off running, the others following closely behind. They ran blindly through the forest, the sounds of the creature's heavy footsteps and snapping branches behind them. Chris could feel his heart pounding in his chest, but unlike the others, he didn't scream. His mind was racing, trying to figure out what to do. After what felt like hours, they stumbled upon a clearing, panting and exhausted. "We're going to die," Derek muttered, shaking in fear. "No, we're not," Chris said firmly, surprising everyone, including himself. Derek scoffed. "What are you going to do? You've never stood up for anything in your life." Chris ignored the jab, scanning the clearing for anything useful. His father had taken him camping as a child and taught him survival skills he had never thought he'd need. But now they were his only chance. "Listen to me," Chris said, his voice steady. "We need to work together if we want to survive. That thing is hunting us, but it's also smart. If we panic, we're as good as dead." The group fell silent. Derek opened his mouth to argue but stopped when he saw the determination in Chris's eyes. There was no time for ego now. "We need weapons and a place to defend ourselves," Chris continued. "This clearing is too open. We need to find cover." They spent the next hour gathering sticks and rocks, sharpening branches into makeshift spears. Chris led them to a more sheltered spot in the forest where they built a small barricade using fallen logs and branches. They huddled together, waiting, the sounds of the forest eerily quiet around them. Hours passed, and night began to fall. Just when it seemed like they might have evaded the creature, a low growl cut through the darkness. The creature was back, circling the camp, its glowing eyes visible between the trees. "This is it," Chris whispered, gripping his spear tightly. "When it comes, we have to fight." The creature lunged from the shadows, but this time, Chris was ready. He shouted for the others to hold their ground. As the creature charged, Chris hurled his spear with all his strength. It struck the creature in the side, slowing it down. The others followed his lead, throwing rocks and jabbing at it with their makeshift weapons. The creature snarled and snapped, but Chris stood his ground, driving the beast back with every strike. Just when it seemed like the creature would overpower them, a loud whistle echoed through the trees. It was the teachers' search parties had finally found them. The creature let out a furious howl before retreating into the darkness. Relief washed over the group as they collapsed to the ground, exhausted but alive. The search party arrived and helped them back to safety. By the time they reached the bus, the nightmare was over. In the days that followed, the story of the creature and Chris's bravery spread through the school. The boy who had once been invisible was now a hero, though Chris didn't see himself that way. He was just glad he had been able to protect his classmates when it mattered most. And though the creature was never seen again, the legend of the Banto Forest grew, a reminder that courage sometimes comes from the most unexpected places.